You think you know Sylvester Stallone. Everyone does. The clenched jaw, the unbreakable stare, the man who gets knocked down and stands back up while the music swells and the crowd roars. Rocky, Rambo, strength, endurance, victory. That's the image burned into pop culture. But here's the uncomfortable truth nobody likes to sit with. The strongest moments you've ever seen him live through on screen were the easy version. The real fights happened when no one was watching, when there was no script, no applause, and no guarantee he would survive the next day. This isn't a story about fame. It's a story about damage. Permanent damage. The kind that doesn't fade when the lights turn on. It begins before memory, before choice, before identity. A birth that should have been ordinary turned violent. Forceps. Pressure. A mistake that lasted a lifetime. Nerves torn. Muscles damaged. Half of his face frozen in place forever. The slur in his speech wasn't an affectation. It wasn't an acting choice. It was the sound of something being taken from him before he ever had a chance to defend himself. From the first breath he took, his body announced to the world that he was different. And children don't forgive difference. Adults don't either. They just hide it better. At home, safety didn't exist. His parents didn't create stability. They created a war zone. Arguments weren't rare. They were constant, loud, vicious, the kind that teaches a child to stay quiet and invisible or risk becoming the next target. When they finally separated, the damage didn't stop. It scattered. One place after another. One school after another. One temporary solution replacing another. No roots. No consistency. Just movement and rejection disguised as necessity. School should have been an escape. It became a stage for humiliation. Other kids didn't hear a speech impediment. They heard weakness. They mocked the drooping lip, the garbled words, the face that didn't cooperate. Teachers assumed what so many people assume when someone doesn't speak right, that the problem is intelligence, not injury. Labels came fast, slow, difficult, hopeless. And when you're told long enough that you don't belong, something inside you starts to believe it. Anger followed, not because he was violent by nature, but because rage is sometimes the only language left when words fail you. Fights became frequent. Expulsions piled up. Each one reinforced the same message. You are a problem, and nobody wants to deal with you. Being unwanted becomes an identity when it's repeated often enough. Invisible when you try to be seen. Visible only when you mess up. Then came isolation on a scale that feels almost cruel. A teenager sent far from home, dropped into a foreign country, struggling to communicate, to connect, to matter. Alone. The silence got loud. The thoughts got darker. The transcript of his life doesn't soften this moment. It says he thought about ending it, not as a dramatic gesture, as an escape. Because when pain feels permanent and the future feels closed, the mind looks for exits. Something stopped him. Not success. Not hope. Just refusal. A thin, stubborn thread that said, even without proof, that maybe somewhere there was a reason he was still here. That belief didn't make life easier. It just kept it going. When he returned to the United States, there was no triumphant comeback. No safety net waiting. No plan. No money. Just a damaged face. A voice people laughed at. And a dream that sounded ridiculous every time he said it out loud. He wanted to be an actor. And the world answered with silence and closed doors. Auditions ended before they began. Faces turned away. Excuses disguised as advice. You talk funny. Your face doesn't work. Rejection wasn't occasional. It was constant. Relentless. He took whatever work he could find. Jobs meant to be unseen. Jobs meant to humiliate. And when money ran out, so did options. He slept in places meant for passing through, not living. Cold benches. Harsh lights. Security boots nudging him awake. Hunger that doesn't feel dramatic, just dull and endless. This wasn't rock bottom with a soundtrack. It was quiet. It was degrading. It was survival stripped of dignity. And then came the decision that still makes people pause when they hear it. His dog. His only companion. The one living thing that didn't judge his face or his voice. He sold him because love doesn't feed itself. Because starvation forces choices that leave scars deeper than hunger ever could. He didn't tell the story to sound noble. He told it because it broke him. If you're still watching, don't look away now. Type "still here" in the comments so I know you're with me, and so the algorithm knows this story matters. Part 2 goes deeper, darker, and closer to the moment everything almost slipped away forever. Before we continue, take 2 seconds and scroll down. Hit the like button if you're still watching. Then leave a comment explaining why you're still here. One sentence is enough. Engagement creates momentum, and momentum keeps stories like this alive. Now stay with me, because this is where desperation turns into something dangerous. When you have nothing left, morality becomes flexible. Pride becomes optional. Survival takes priority. That's how he ended up accepting work he would later describe as shameful. Not because he wanted fame, not because he believed in it, because hunger doesn't care what you think of yourself. The industry didn't suddenly open its arms. It tolerated him. Barely. And when the work dried up again, he was right back where he started, poor, invisible, and exhausted. Then one night, something small happened. A television flickering in a cramped room. A boxing match no one expected to matter. A fighter no one believed in. And yet he kept standing. He kept absorbing punishment that should have ended him. He lost, but he didn't quit. And in that moment, recognition hit harder than any punch. This wasn't inspiration. It was identification. He wasn't watching a hero. He was watching himself. What followed wasn't careful planning. It was urgency. A burst of writing fueled by everything he had swallowed for years. Rejection, mockery, fear, hunger. He poured it into a story about a nobody who gets one chance. Not to win, just to be seen. When the script was finished, it wasn't perfect. It was honest. And honesty is dangerous in an industry built on control. Interest came fast. Money followed. Offers grew larger with each conversation. Enough to erase every debt. Enough to make the suffering feel worth it. But the price wasn't financial. It was personal. They wanted the story without him. His face didn't fit. His voice didn't sell. Someone else could play the part better. Cleaner. Easier. He could walk away rich and disappear quietly. And this is where most people would take the deal. No judgment. Survival teaches you to say yes when you finally can. But something old and stubborn surfaced. The same thing that kept him alive years earlier. He said no. Again. And again. Each refusal sounded more insane than the last. Friends begged. Logic screamed. Fear tightened its grip. But he knew something no one else did. Without him, the story wasn't real. Eventually, exhaustion won. Not his, theirs. He got the role. Less money. Less margin for error. No safety net. One shot. Failure would confirm everything the world had ever told him. Success would change nothing unless it worked perfectly. The filming was brutal. Cold. Fast. Unforgiving. Scenes rewritten overnight. Pressure constant. No room to hide. When the first paycheck arrived, he did the first thing that mattered to him. He found his dog. He paid whatever it took. That reunion wasn't symbolic. It was personal. It was proof that some losses can be reversed, even if most cannot. Then the film came out, and the world saw something it didn't expect. Not polish, not perfection, but truth. A reflection of themselves. The success was explosive, but fame doesn't heal old wounds. It just makes them visible. The rise that followed was massive. Sequels, icons, money, power, an era defined by his image. But success doesn't erase damage. It just distracts from it. And when trends change, distractions disappear. By the time the industry shifted, the fall was fast. Tastes evolved. Mockery replaced admiration. Failures stacked up. Roles vanished. Income shrank. The same voices that once praised him now dismissed him. History repeated itself, just louder this time. If this part changed how you see him, say so in the comments. If it didn't, keep watching. Because the most painful chapter hasn't even arrived yet. Before the final chapter, do one last thing for me. Share this video with someone who thinks strength means never breaking. And after you do, come back and comment shared. It helps this story reach the people who need it most. When everything slows down, when the noise fades, loss gets louder, and nothing prepares you for losing a child. No fame, no money, no legacy. His oldest son was gone. Suddenly, permanently. The details stopped mattering. Only absence remained. The world saw an icon. He felt like a father who failed to protect the one person he couldn't replace. Grief doesn't scream forever. Sometimes it goes quiet. It sits next to you. It watches you breathe. It follows you into work, into sleep, into memory. He didn't perform grief. He lived inside it. And when he returned to the character that once saved him, the pain wasn't acting. It was survival repurposed. The performance people praised wasn't technical brilliance. It was exposure. An aging man confronting loss, mortality, and regret. The audience applauded. He endured. Awards didn't matter. Validation came too late to heal what was broken. And yet, he kept going. Not because it was easy, because stopping wasn't an option. He aged in public, slowed down in front of millions, still marked by the injury from birth, still carrying grief, still standing. This is why the story matters. Not because of success, because of refusal. Refusal to disappear. Refusal to accept the verdict handed to him again and again. The real lesson was never about winning. It was about staying. If you made it to the end, you're part of the story now. Leave a comment saying what stayed with you the most. Like the video if it changed how you see resilience. Subscribe if you want more stories that don't flinch from the truth. Hype this video by commenting, liking, and sharing, because the algorithm rewards noise, and this story deserves to be heard. Strength isn't never falling. It's standing back up when no one expects you to. And sometimes, that's the only victory that counts.